Somewhat to my surprise, Tommy Robinson has actually been released from prison. And I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about what comes next for Tommy, which may well actually just be more prison. I'll also speak about what happened in Liverpool towards the end of the video, but for now, let's take a look at what Tommy had to say as he was released.
How are you? How are you feeling, boss?
I feel good. Unfortunately, in a country that doesn't believe in free speech, being a citizen journalist, this place is an occupational hazard. It's ridiculous. 16 years ago, when I first started speaking out against Islamic rape gangs that were plaguing this country, from that point on, I faced relentless attacks from the British state, wielding lawfare as a weapon in order to silence me. Since the start of my activism in 2009, police raids, court cases, I actually thought when I walked out of here this time, it would be the first time since 2009 that I haven't been awaiting trial or prison. And bang, I'm awaiting trial and prison on multiple cases again now. But I've watched from the start of my activism. First of all, I saw Geert Wilders. Geert Wilders was targeted with hate speech laws and prosecutions. I've looked in America. This is the playbook that's played out across the entire globe. If we look in America, look what they've done to Steve Bannon. Look what they've done to Alex Jones, £1 billion. Donald Trump would face the rest of his life in prison if he did not win that election. Look now recently with Marie Le Pen. They've stopped her standing. Look at Katie Hopkins in our country. They took her home. They took her family home. Lawfare has been waged against anyone who has challenged the globalist narratives, challenged open border, challenged mass immigration, even challenged vaccines, any of it. They come at you from every angle. That's what I've experienced, but fortunately, if Elon Musk did not purchase X, I don't think that people understand the importance of it. If he didn't, you'd have been lied to about this entire case.
The first thing that you notice about Tommy from that footage is his appearance. Now, I'm a big fan of the surfer look with long flowing back hair and a beard, but I suspect this wasn't a choice for him. If anything, he looks a bit more like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
The second thing that you might have picked up on is the fact that he's wearing a cross around his neck, rather like the one behind me, albeit a little bit smaller. And that makes me wonder, has he changed his relationship with God whilst he's been in prison? And that wouldn't really be that surprising, would it? We know that he spent most of his prison term in solitary confinement. And what else could bring you closer to God than feeling that persecution? So I'll be very interested to hear what he has to say about this in future podcasts and interviews. I guess we'll just have to wait. Now, as he was released, Tommy spoke about a couple of things that I just want to pick up on. First of all, he mentioned that he's due back in court on the 5th of June. And that's true. It relates to 2 charges of harassment causing fear of violence. Now, we know that Tommy wasn't actually in the country over the period that that's meant to have taken place, August the 5th to August 7th last year. He was in Ayia Napa with his family having a holiday, and we know that because the Daily Mail wrote articles about it. It's hardly a secret. So you can probably assume that these offences have something to do with social media, and if you really want to try and figure it out, you can go and trawl through all of his old past posts. Now, I won't say anything more than that because it's a live court case, but what I will say is, on the 5th of June, it's a very real possibility that he goes into court and he is remanded back into custody. So he gets basically 1 week of freedom and then he's back in solitary confinement. Brilliant. Now, once that matter has been dealt with, and it would be wrong, possibly even illegal of me to speculate as to whether he's guilty or innocent, but once that matter has been dealt with, he actually has another charge waiting for him. And this is a terrorism charge. Specifically, he was detained using the Terrorism Act of 2000 and questioned by the police. They asked him to hand over the PIN to his mobile phone and give up all of his passwords to other devices and accounts, and he didn't. So he's been charged with a terror offence for doing that. Now, my thoughts on the Terrorism Act of 2000 are very clear. I've made them clear in the past. I'm not saying that they were abused in this particular circumstance, but my thoughts are just that, look, the police have to be very careful how they use these powers because we all understand that they're necessary to combat terrorism. Sadly, that's the world we live in. But if the police start abusing and using these powers where they shouldn't be, it's going to undermine trust in that law and in the police more generally. Again, I'm not saying that's what they did here, but it's just food for thought generally about the Terrorism Act. So you can kind of see that the CPS have these charges lined up against him going into the future. And if he's found guilty of all of these charges, which he may well be, he could be facing quite a long time in prison. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what actually comes of all of these charges. There's nothing else we can really do at this point. Now, there's something else that Tommy said, and I actually think it's the most important thing that he said in the entire speech. He thanked Elon Musk for buying Twitter, turning it into X, and making it a free speech platform.
I have to say a thank you to Elon Musk, because without X, if we didn't have X, everyone would just think I lied. No one would have got any other narrative.
On this, I couldn't agree with Tommy more. Whether you like Elon Musk or not, his decision to create X and turn it into a free speech platform has radically changed the discourse of politics in Britain. People are now able to share their thoughts, feelings, opinions without being at risk of being censored by the social media platform that they're actually posting it on. Of course, if you overstep the boundaries of the law, then you can still find yourself in trouble there. But previously, prior to Elon Musk doing this, before you even got to that stage, if you said anything that didn't agree with the liberal view of things, your post would be deleted and your account terminated. And that no longer happens. That's really powerful. And so, yes, I thank Elon Musk tremendously for doing that. Anyway, I hope that Tommy manages to get some good rest, some good food, some sleep, and he can actually recover and rehabilitate a little bit. I've got no doubt that Tommy isn't actually going to heed that advice. He's immediately going to start doing social media appearances, podcasts, and everything else. Partially because he probably thinks, well, I might be back in prison in a week's time because I have to go to court on the 5th of June, so I've got to get this done quickly. But to the people surrounding Tommy, his friends and his family, I hope that you try and look after him, take care of him. We should all do that for our friends and just make sure that he looks after himself a little bit. This theme of looking after your friends neatly leads me into my next topic, because I want to talk about what happened in Liverpool and the social media reactions to it. Now, I'm not going to show the footage for very obvious reasons. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it anyway. But what I am going to say is this. I realised pretty quickly that this wasn't what a lot of people were assuming it was. I didn't think it was some kind of jihadi terror attack because we kind of had seen footage of what happened beforehand, and there were just basically football fans kind of attacking this guy's car. So my thoughts were immediately that this guy has turned down the wrong street and got himself into a bad situation and either panicked or had a moment of rage and then done what he did. Obviously, not a good situation. I just want to stress two things when it comes to this incident. First of all, the fact that it wasn't a jihadi terror attack doesn't make it any less tragic and doesn't make the frustration or anger that's felt by people any less justified. The other thing that I want to say is I don't blame people for making the assumption that it was a jihadi terror attack, because look, how often have we seen this kind of thing, not only in the UK, but throughout Europe? And 98% of the time, the people who are assuming that it's a jihadi terror attack are correct. You can't blame people for noticing patterns. However, what I want to say is some of my friends on social media, and I do consider them friends, maybe they won't consider me friends, but they were posting some things which were a little bit incendiary. One of them said, tonight we will make a stand. And I messaged that person and I just said, look, I'm not sure that this is what you think it is. I understand the frustration, but you've got to be a little bit careful about what you're posting here. You know, surely we've learned something from what happened in Southport. Say something does kick off tonight and there's your tweet. Well, you're probably going to be getting the Lucy Connolly treatment, and you don't want that. And that's just an example of trying to look after your friends, especially in the heat of the moment when, tempers are very, very high. Let's just look after each other a little bit. The way I see it is this. If you're going to die on a hill, make sure that the hill that you are dying on is actually the hill that you want to be dying on. That's kind of an unusual analogy, but what I'm saying is this would have been a really stupid thing to actually go to prison for, right? It really would have. Anyway, friends, I am crossing the border into Bosnia today. Bosnia is somewhere over in that direction through those hills. And I don't know exactly what my internet situation is going to be like. It probably isn't going to be as good as in Europe, in sort of mainland Europe, in Croatia where I am now. So if I'm not able to reply to as many comments as I usually do, I usually try and reply to a couple of hundred comments. If I'm not able to on this video or in future videos over the next couple of weeks, that's probably why. Please try not to be offended. Do still leave the comments because it helps me, helps the channel, helps the video, helps the algorithm, all of that good stuff. But yeah, I'm hoping to bring you some pretty cool videos out of Bosnia. Bosnia is a really cool country. I think you'll like seeing it. I've got some cool locations that I already know of from past travels, and I'll sort of recycle those a little bit and show you. And I think it'll be interesting. So yeah, as long as I can avoid the landmines and the bears, which are apparently in this forest right here, although I haven't seen a bear yet. I am just wandering around by myself. If I get mauled, I get mauled. It's interesting because as you're coming through I'm near Plitvice Lakes. As you're coming through, you see a lot of signs warning you about bears. And I think Camp Bear, where people can camp, is somewhere just down there. So there really are bears here. I think there's like 1,000 or 1,500 around this spot. But apparently if you just keep talking in a normal voice, they tend to hear you, not be spooked by you, which is a very good thing, and they'll leave you alone. They don't really like to interact with humans that much, which is good. So yeah. Anyway, till the next one, like, comment, subscribe. Actually, before I go, someone recommended that I change the channel name from British Lander to the Rabid Rambler, and I actually really like that, and I'm considering it because it's like a double entendre twice. To be rabid means you could literally have rabies, which is quite funny because just today I've had a rabies shot, or it can mean that you're sort of angry and a little bit crazy. And then to be a rambler is also a double entendre because it can mean that you're either going for a walk, which I do in most of my videos, or it can mean that you're rambling on about something like I am now. So the Rabid Rambler is like two double entendres, which I guess maybe it makes it a quadruple entendre. I actually quite like that. I think it's quite clever. Let me know what you guys think. Changing the name would be a big thing. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe that's crazy. Maybe I should just leave it as it is. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. Right, this time, for real, till the next one.